The Pitchsider. Pitchside for every game.
Hello and welcome back to the Pitchsider Podcast. Hope you are very, very well. It's been a few weeks since we've last recorded. We've moved studio, so there's been a bit of setting up, but we're now back. So what we'll do is we will go through all of the latest news and give you a recap of all what's happening in the league. We won't go into any games specifically. This will be a catch-up podcast and we'll be back to normal next week. Starting in the Premier League, the biggest news is probably that Erik ten Hag has been sacked. Now that we're on an international break, he will be replaced by Ruben Amorim, former of Sporting. His last game for Sporting was against Man City, where he beat them 6-2-1, I believe, in the Champions League. Having a look at the table in the Premier League. Liverpool now are top based. Liverpool are top, followed by Man City, Chelsea and Arsenal making up the top four. Arsenal have a really sort of poor run recently, lost, draw, and they did play Chelsea yesterday as of recording this, where they did lose, where they did draw 1-1. Chelsea have faced hard teams. They faced the likes of Liverpool recently, Chelsea, Nottingham Forest, and sort of Manchester United. They've struggled a little bit in terms of form, and they play like Newcastle. But in terms of the table, we do have surprise of Nottingham Forest in 5th, Brighton in 6th, Fulham in 7th, followed by Newcastle, Villa, and Tottenham making up the top 10. With Brentford, Bournemouth, United, West Ham, Leicester, Everton, and Ipswich, with Crystal Palace, Wolves and Southampton all making up the relegation teams. Wolves and Crystal Palace are very much a surprise being down there. Wolves are very much struggling as well as Palace, so both teams we could see go down. They've stayed in there for a while now, but Ipswich got a good win at the weekend against Tottenham. One of the other teams that could do a management change, and there'll be an article out on the Pitchsider soon about this, is West Ham. They're in sort of not great form, 3 wins, 3 draws, 5 losses. And this would lead them to potentially making a management change. They've been in Europe for the last 3 seasons, and doesn't look like they're going to really do that. They struggled under David Moyes last season, but did all right. But now under their new manager, they're really struggling. So it's going to be interesting to see where they go from here. They drew against Everton at the weekend, so they've given him more time in terms of had to turn it around, because it is still his first season at the club. But it is likely that if he carries on this form, he will be getting the boot at West Ham, because West Ham wants to be fighting up there. But interesting in the Premier League, definitely. The surprises and Nottingham Forest being up there is definitely one of them. Chris Wood is having a really good season so far, so potentially why they're doing so well. Nuno Santos came in Forest last season when they were in relegation zone, and now they're fighting for Europe at the moment. So that's really good for them. And obviously other Chelsea are another surprise. Most people wouldn't putting them up in the top 4 this early on in the season, but they look to be doing really well. Only losses coming between City and Liverpool. Everyone else they seem to be doing all right against, and they've statistically had the 3rd hardest start to the season. So definitely going to be interesting. The other teams that were above Chelsea in that stat. So Wolves have had the hardest start to the season. Probably understandable why they're that far down in the league. But Bournemouth as well, sitting 12th. Newcastle are 4th, followed by Brighton, and then West Ham, and then Arsenal sitting 7th in that table. I would say it's probably Arsenal at the moment. They were tipped to be sort of up there fighting against City. They've had a poor run of form recently, as I mentioned. So is City, really, with the loss of Rodri. They're 23 points, they're only 4 points above Chelsea and Arsenal. I will state that Chelsea, Arsenal, Nottingham Forest and Bournemouth are all on level on points, with Fulham, Newcastle and Aston Villa all only a point behind them as well. So it could all change within the next couple of weeks. But yeah, Liverpool are running away with the league. They are 5 points clear of Man City and almost 10 points clear or 9 points clear of Chelsea and Arsenal. So yeah, they're definitely the favourite to go and win it. They've had 1 loss, 1 draw and 9 wins so far. So they're definitely doing really well in the league. But yeah, it's going to still be close, 11 games into the league. So let's have a look quickly at the Championship. So Sunderland sit at the top of this, followed by Sheffield Wednesday, with Leeds, Burnley, West Brom and Watford all in the sort of places that are fighting, with Cardiff, Portsmouth and QPR all in the relegation zone. Portsmouth are struggling still to get out of that, but yeah, so are Cardiff and Queen Park Rangers. Luton are surprised to be down there. Obviously, we're in the Premier League recently. But yeah, definitely interesting to see where this league goes. And again, we'll keep coverage of this as we go on. Let's have a quick look at Europe. Let's have a quick look at La Liga. So La Liga, Barcelona are top with a 5-point gap now between them and Real Madrid, with Atletico Madrid and Villarreal sitting in 4th. Oswaldo and Athletic Club both sit 5th and 6th in the league, with Espanyol, Real Sociedad and Valencia all in the relegation zone. Espanyol and Getafe level on points, so they could switch positions within the next couple of weeks. Espanyol and Valencia do have games in hand, so they can pull themselves out if they do win these. But yeah, Barcelona doing really, really well. 2 losses, 11 wins out of 13 games. Real Madrid have got more draws, but less defeats, and so have Atletico. But yeah, definitely interesting to see where this is going to go. All 3 of these Spanish teams look very, very menacing and don't want to face them in Europe. In the Bundesliga, Bayern Munich sit top with 5 points clear of RB Leipzig, with Frankfurt and Bayer Leverkusen sitting in 4th. Bayer Leverkusen struggling where they left off last season for 4 wins, 5 draws, 1 loss. They are on a draw streak at the moment. They've drawn the last 3 games, so yeah, they need to start picking up points if they do want to be back challenging. And they also did have a midweek game against Liverpool with Xavi returning, and it didn't. But Freiburg and Union Berlin sit in the playoff places for Europa, with St. Paul in the playoff places for relegation, and then Hossekalan and Bochum all in the relegation zone and will be relegated if they finish their next season. Looking at Serie A, Napoli are top with 1 point, but then Atalanta, Valencia, Inter Milan and Lazio are all level on points, 1 point behind Napoli on 25 points, with Juventus sitting in 6th with 24 points. And then there is a 6-point gap between Juventus and AC Milan, who sit in 7th. Monza and Valencia all sit in the relegation zone with 9 and 8 points respectively. Yeah, very, very close at the top of Serie A, so very interesting. So yeah, going to be interesting to see where this goes, because Napoli, obviously, they're not in the best of form, but Atalanta, Valencia have won their last 6 games back to back, with Inter Milan in fairly decent form as well. It's going to be interesting, and any team in that fight of those 5-6 teams can win the league. They're all capable of doing it. Obviously, Napoli, Inter Milan, Juventus, AC Milan have all done it recently. So will we get a new winner within Atalanta or Fiorentina? Time will tell. Finally, let's look at Ligue 1. No surprise, PSG are sitting up top with a 6-point gap between them and Monaco, who sit in second, with Olympique Marseille in third. Lille, Lyon, and Nice make up the European spots, with Saint Etienne, Le Havre, and Montpellier all in the relegation. Saint Etienne are in the fight. They are level on points with 14 and 15. Nantes and Angers all on 10 points. Still very close in the mid-table of the Ligue 1, but PSG are running away with it once again. So that rounds up this week's podcast. Hope you have enjoyed. Just a quick one to get you up to date with all of the news that's gone on round in football. And we'll be back next week with a proper podcast. It is an international break, so it will be a short one again. But yes, thank you for listening, and hope you have a good week, and goodbye.
For all the latest news, transfers, and football articles, check out thepitchsider.com. It's the place to be. Contact us on our socials. Instagram and Twitter is @thepitchsider, or via email is thepitchsider@hotmail.com.